What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Israel Adesanya stands behind Francis Ngannou. In the wake of former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou parting ways with the UFC, opinions have continued to pour in on whether or not the former champion made the right decision for his career. While some believe that Ngannou deserves plenty of respect for sticking to his morals and standing up for what he believes in, others think that he may be making a mistake by parting ways with the biggest MMA promotion in the United States. Leading up to the UFC 284 event in Perth, former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya spoke to media members during the course of the scrum, and the last stylebender voiced his support for Francis Ngannou. The way he sees things, Ngannou wasn't being a diva by requesting things like healthcare for fighters and a representative for fighters at Endeavor board meetings.
Francis made the right call. He's the one that kicked in the door. We've all been behind him. We've been saying this for how long? If you guys go back on the tapes, I've been saying the same thing. I'm not gonna hop on about it, but he's right. It's little things, you know? He's asking for things that should be mandatory. He wasn't asking for, crazy, ridiculous, diva-ish demands,
Of course, many have continued to hold out hope that, in the future, Ngannou and the UFC will be able to work out a deal in the future that sees the Predator return to the octagon. While that may still be a ways off, Ngannou hopes to make his professional boxing debut before the summer. After that, the plan is for the former heavyweight champion to return to MMA, either with another organization or with his own promotion. Only time will tell what the future holds for the former heavyweight champion. Conor McGregor weighs in on Makhachev versus Volkanovski. While former two-division champion Conor McGregor is usually quick to fire off some scathing shots after an evening of fights, there was none of that to be had after the spectacular display put forth by Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. In the wake of the bout, McGregor took to Twitter to react to the fight, appreciating the display put forth by both men, rather than seizing the opportunity to take shots at either of the two champions. That was a great fight last night, lads. No loser, they're just winners. The Aussie and the Aussies showed out, and I love seeing it. Perth looks tasty too. Now I see why so many Irish are there. I should have went out. Former titles on the line. Congrats all at UFC. With McGregor likely returning to action before the end of the year, many have predicted that with a spectacular win over Michael Chandler, McGregor could quickly insert himself into the title shot conversation. Given the long-standing history between Team Khabib and Team McGregor, a fight between the Irish superstar and the Khabib Nurmagomedov protege would sell itself. With McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov being the best-selling pay-per-view event of all time, a fight between he and Makhachev would certainly do massive numbers for the UFC. Of course, with Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush both hopeful that they can secure a title shot with Makhachev before the end of this year, there's plenty of arguments to be made when it comes to who deserves the next crack at the 155-pound belt. Alexander Volkanovski reacts to scoring in loss to Makhachev. The scoring in the UFC 284 main event has continued to be the subject of much criticism in the wake of the event. While many believe that the judges got it right with their scorecards, others believe that Volkanovski should have been given the win. After the fight, Volkanovski took to Twitter to give his immediate thoughts on the loss, while also calling for a rematch with the lightweight champion. In his eyes, he won rounds 2, 3, and 5 and should have been declared the winner. At the post-fight press conference, he spoke to media members accepting blame for the loss and admitting that he could have done more to secure himself the win.
Yeah, I could have done more, so I'm a bit harder on myself. A lot of people probably, a lot of people counted me out, so they're like, oh, hey, wow, But I was never counting myself out. I expected to win, so I'm disappointed. I know I could have done more. Could have capitalised on the things earlier as well. I did think he was going to be stronger, and I probably could have done more earlier. But anyway, what do you do? Credit to him.
What did you think of the fight? Did Volkanovski do enough to win? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love, and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Wonderboy doubts Jones' chances at heavyweight. As the return of former pound-for-pound kingpin Jon Jones looms overhead, fans, analysts, and Jones' own peers have all continued to debate how they think the former champ's return plays out. While many seem to think that Jones' wrestling will help him coast to an easy win over Rogan, many think that after 3 years of inactivity, Jones' return will be less than spectacular. Between moving up to a new weight class and the possibility of ring rust, there are plenty who think Jones' return won't go according to plan. In a recent video on his YouTube channel, UFC veteran Stephen Wonderboy Thompson spoke about the fight, giving his breakdown on how he thinks things will play out for Jon Jones, predicting a win for the former interim heavyweight champion, saying,
"He's not fast and going to be even slower now that he's 280."
Maybe.
No, he's definitely going to be slower. I don't see Jon Jones touching him, and which he's
Speed.
phenomenal at. He's super fast at.
Currently, Jones is sitting a slight favorite in the betting odds on FanDuel at -136. At the same time, Ciryl Gane sits as a slight underdog for this fight at +116. With less than a month to go until the two men square off inside the octagon, it'll be interesting to see how things play out when the pair clash. Islam Makhachev fires back at Nate Diaz. While Conor McGregor may not have taken the opportunity to take shots at Makhachev and Volkanovski after UFC 284, Stockton superstar Nate Diaz didn't get the memo. After the fight, Nate Diaz took to social media to congratulate Alexander Volkanovski on the fight, while accusing the lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, of getting whooped throughout the fight. Naturally, that elicited a hilarious response from Makhachev, who spoke with reporter Aaron Bronstetter about Diaz's claim, saying,
I don't know what he said. Maybe he smoked something and watched the fight.
This isn't the first time he has taken shots at Makhachev and his team. Prior to the fight, he made sure to get jabs in at longtime rival Dustin Poirier, Khamzat Chimaev, and Makhachev's longtime friend and training partner, Khabib Nurmagomedov, saying that he was undefeated against all three in regards to the hypothetical fights. So far, no response yet from Diaz as he mulls over his next move after parting ways with the UFC late last year. After defeating Tony Ferguson, Diaz unveiled his plans to compete in other combat sports before eventually making his return to the UFC. With that being said, there's been no news on where his first post-UFC stop could be. Stay tuned for updates as they become available.
And now for our breaking news story of the day.
Joe Rogan reacts to Makhachev versus Volkanovski scorecards. After a spectacular UFC 284 main event, fans took to social media to give their thoughts on the fight, as well as the subsequent decision. While he didn't make the trip to Perth to commentate for the event live, Joe Rogan held a Fight Companion episode of his Joe Rogan Experience podcast alongside Eddie Bravo, Brendan Schaub, and Brian Callen. Going into the reading of the judge's decision for this fight, Rogan believed that Volkanovski had done enough to get the victory over Islam Makhachev. On the Fight Companion app, Rogan stated,
"Oh my God, look at Makhachev. He's so distraught. He realizes now. He just lost 100%. Let's hear it. 48-47. Oh, that's insane. God. He got robbed. Oh, but I still think Volk won that. Volk won that fight. We were convinced. Were we too biased? We might have been biased. Were we, though? We might have to watch it. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I was so. Very biased. Wait, let's see what the online people think. Because in my eyes, I thought it was 3-2. 3-2. Yeah. Oh my God, this sucks. Listen to the crowd.
So far, no word yet on whether or not Rogan had a chance to rewatch the fight, or if his opinion has changed at all since then. From the look of the media scorecards, there was an incredibly wide range of scores for this fight. Given the excitement surrounding the bout and how closely contested it was, the UFC could look to book the two for a rematch down the line after both defend their respective belts. Although Makhachev said pre-fight that he would eventually move up to welterweight, a rematch with Volkanovski down the line seems like the fight fans truly want. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.